super green. But I need some more super green. You're a scrawny little mouse taking over this old house, waiting for my chance to shine. I am gonna make you mine. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll need some more super green. Spend a lot of extra time waiting for the acolyte. I am gonna catch that fool. You will think I'm really cool. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll need some more super green. Just watch me, mouse. Just watch me catch you. Just watch me, mouse.
Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mouse Hunt community. How's everybody doing today? It is October 11, 2019. Yeah, still 2019. Have trouble remembering what year it is surprisingly frequently often. Hello, everyone in the chat. Hello, Thomas, Arctic, Chong, KDM, Poke, Eugene, Lady Nazi. Good morning, good morning. Well, today, thought we'd give hunters a quick little sneak peek at what to expect with the upcoming Halloween event, which is coming in the not-too-distant future, as well as get just general feedback, suggestions, questions about Valor Rift as well. So see where does the chat want to start? What do you want to start with this morning? Hello, hello, hey, hey, good morning back at everyone in the chat. Hello, hello. Had a slew of hey, heys. Let's start with Halloween, which is the easy stuff, says Beth. Halloween first. Halloween, Halloween. Start with Tribal Isle Rift. That'll come later, I think. We'll end with that in months from now, if not years. All right, well, cool. By my totally formal polling technology there, we'll start with Halloween. So this year's Halloween event, which, if I recall correctly, I'm horrible with dates, is going to start on October 22. Yes, that is correct. Is it? Yes, there it is. Cool. That is a Tuesday. All right. I can read calendars. Whoa. Calendar just froze on my computer a bit. Well, this year, the same ghastly invaders are planning to invade Gnawnian, but they have put all of their spooky eggs in one basket by sending a single giant ghost ship that you'll be firing upon. So very similar to years past, you'll be able to visit some haunted stockpile locations, collect your ghastly galleon cheese. The ghastly galleon cheese will attract event mice in those locations, and the event mice will drop ethereal cannonballs. I always struggle to pronounce that word, still not convinced I'm pronouncing it correctly. And then you can fire those cannonballs from anywhere in the entire kingdom at this one massive ship. Each shot will do a little bit of damage and shake loose some spooky supplies. So that's kind of the big difference this year. Is no longer is it based on the points that the mouse are or that the mice are worth, but every shot shakes loose some spooky supplies, and those spooky supplies will go towards earning a track of rewards. So very similar to Ronza's Chrome Bit event As you earn spooky supplies, you'll unlock some things on a reward track to claim. Suzanne says 2-week event. Yes, that is correct. It's a little bit more of a short and sweet event. Like we mentioned in the past as well, so there isn't really area-specific loot. That's kind of something we're saving for the Great Winter Hunt. And this is kind of a bit of a throwback to more classic MouseHunt event reward structures where there's more about limited edition items to earn, unique things to find during that event. Swift asks, no more region-specific ships. That is correct. It is just one big old ship everyone is firing upon, no matter where you are. And you can fire your cannonballs from any location. Poke asks, are stockpile locations the same as last year? I believe so. With the addition, we are looking at adding the Valor Rift, so that'll be one small difference. Let me load that up so I can just double check. Open up this little pop-up here. Ooh, maybe I can even put this on the screen. Take a screenshot. Just in case I'm incorrect. Where do I add images? I'll find it. There we go. No, I don't want to add music. Where am I? There's the screenshot I took. Nope, that's not the one. Getting there. I'm getting there. Alrighty. So there are the haunted locations. That said, we are also looking at adding the Valor Rift. If we do, it'll be very likely it'll just be the tower entrance part of the Valor Rift will act as a sort of haunted stockpile location. We'll be able to collect your ghastly galleon. That said, you are able to fire your cannonballs from anywhere, including in the Valor Rift when you enter the tower. That'll still work just fine. Brian says, new event currency, thought you were retiring those. Well, it's not so much an event currency as sort of a progress tracker. So your progress doesn't carry over year to year. So it's not really a currency per se, but you get the spooky supplies, and that marks your progress in the 2019 event. And then when the event is done, the spooky supplies are gone. So it's basically just a progress indicator of how far along that reward track you are. And Tora asks, are there new trap skins and traps? Halloween-themed skins and traps are always my favorite. Well, you will be in luck. There are definitely some new. There's a new base, a new weapon, and a new skin and journal theme, I believe. If I recall correctly, you can see on the track above me, I think the second one is a base. The fourth one is the trap. I'm losing count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7th one is a skin, and that makes the 8th one being the journal theme. Subject to play testing, though. No need to farm Abominable Asiago. Yep, that is correct. Chad asks, is this event going to be different than the last? Because I'm still new to MouseHunt, don't know that much. Yes, it'll be slightly different. It has a kind of a similar vibe to it, similar theme, similar mechanics of shooting the cannonballs at ghost ships. But it's a little bit different in that last year there were regional ghost ships, and this year there's just one massive ship to fire at. As if asks, what's the difference between the cannonballs again? Well, before, I believe the Ghost Fire cannonballs did double damage. This year they will add additional spooky supplies with each shot. Bring that a little up in the old stack there. Whereas the regular ones, they're going to get fewer spooky supplies with each shot. RIP collectors again. Well, it's not quite so much an item, right? And that's why some items we mark as sort of hidden, we call them hidden items, because they're more just sort of an entry in your progress in the same way your stealth in Zokor. You can't really collect your stealth. It's right when you leave Zokor, your stealth is gone. So mechanically, it's kind of being tracked the same way. It's just sort of, I guess that's more of how it's presented. Some things feel like a more tangible item than others. Stejan asks, will there be an aura source beside those 3 goals we can see on top? I don't believe so. I think those are the only 3 aura extensions subject to play testing. One is plus 1 week, the other one is plus another week, and the final one is plus 2 weeks. Is it trap Draconic Rift or something else? You know, actually, off the top of my head, I don't recall. I don't believe it is. Actually, is it Draconic? It might be Draconic. And it's that time for my CPU fan to just love encoding video. Draconic. Yemen Cemetery Gate Grappler. Yes, it is indeed Draconic. Spooky Aura is the Skull and Crossbones reward. Yes, that is correct. That's the icon for the Spooky Aura. Swift says, will Halloween maps make a return? Yep, most certainly. No plans to retire those. Beth says, as long as you remove spooky supplies after the event and tell everyone you're going to do so, collectors won't have anything to worry about. Yeah, generally, a lot of the events, sort of the things that track your progress, aren't really necessarily items in your inventory, and that's why often they're even hidden from your inventory, so you can't see them, even though the mice might drop them. They just kind of are basically a statistic on a heads-up display in the same way your, in another game like your hit points or something wouldn't be an item that you hold on to, and every time you take damage, you like drop some of your hit point items. They're just like a stat associated with your character. It says, you gave us an idea, collecting Zolkor stealth and never using it. Yep, there you go. If you put up highest stealth, you should just leave, never go back to Zolkor, and collect those 180 stealth or higher. Do cannonballs from previous years carry over? Yes, indeed. Typically, anything that is sold for real-world money would not be taken away or reset. You would keep that from year to year. But there are no guarantees that it would be used the following year. But we do our best usually to at least give it a sort of niche use, or you can use it to upgrade into the new events, cheese, or other items that you use. How does the Halloween event work? Went over that at the beginning, but in a nutshell, similar to years past, but there's just one big ghost ship everyone fires upon. So you'll collect Ghastly Galleon, you use that to collect or to hunt for event mice, which drop cannonballs, and then you can fire the cannonballs to damage the ship, which shakes loose some spooky supplies, which earns you rewards. Slim said, oh, you got a mic? Nope, but my CPU fan did decide to take a break. Any cherry credits promotion sales going along as well? Not aware of any. Brian says, bigger question, can we add a rib to the upgrade? Said Draconic Trap high rank players. I don't believe that's in the cards. Yonel asks, will there be a shadow event trap reward? Would love to see a new powerful event trap. I don't believe there are any shadow event or any shadow rewards in the event. Swift says, seems like we'll get less ultimate spooky charms this time. Well, there are some on the reward track there, I think, right after that second spooky aura extension. Azov asks, when you finish off the ship hit points, will a new one appear? At the time, no. Some of the couple of those last rewards on the event track are kind of a little bit of stretch goals, so they're kind of difficult to obtain within 2 weeks to get that last aura extension. And so with that in mind, when you shoot down the ship, there probably won't be too much time left to take on a second ship. So it's kind of at that point, you can move on from the event. You've cashed out, gotten all that you can from it. And then you could go back to doing non-event things. Yep, says, I hope you can see overall hunting details in 1 day and a half instead of only be able to see it in the journal. It's certainly been a popular suggestion as well. No kind of plans to pursue it at the moment, but it's definitely a good idea. William says, will Queso have an event too? Well, you can take part in the Halloween event from anywhere in the kingdom. That said, there are specific areas where you can collect the Ghastly Galleon and hunt for event mice. But once you have your cannonballs, you can take them anywhere you like. So if you're pumping Queso, once you get your cannonballs, you can head over to the Queso River. Actually, Queso River might be a stockpile location, if I recall correctly. Yes, there it is right there. So you're in luck in that the Queso River is one of those haunted stockpile locations, so you can collect Ghastly Galleon, hunt for event mice, all while running your Queso pump. Chunk says, a damage of the ship based on the points of the captured or the number of cannonballs. So it is not based on the points of the mice anymore. It's pretty well just kind of a static. You need to fire this many cannonballs to finish the reward track. So it's a lot kind of simplified, just kind of a short and sweet little kind of Halloween event to go through, earn some unique rewards. Like I said, kind of a lot in line with some of the older events that we've done in the past. Beth asks, will the event last for 2 weeks total? Yes, so ending on November 5. Without looking at a calendar, that sounds about right. Brian asks, will Lockbark Limburger have any cheese? I think Franco had something in mind for that as well, so I think it will potentially work to encounter event mice, so you can use it to collect your cannonballs. Jamie asks, status of Valor Rift area maps. Well, that might be a good segue into Valor Rift. Comments, suggestions, and feedback. Because the maps are interesting for this area in that it's kind of hard to target specific mice. That said, of course, just going through, as you climb up the tower, you'll keep going over the floors over and over again. One thing we were very careful with while we we're putting together the Valor Rift is we didn't want it to be kind of like the Sunken City in a way where when you see a good zone, you want to stop and really pick up as much loot in that good zone as you can, and that kind of that's fun because there's anchoring charms and tools you can use to slow down and speed up in the Sunken City, where this is more about just getting as high in the tower as you possibly can reach. And so we really wanted to avoid having unique drops on specific floors or making one floor dramatically more rewarding than the other one. So that proves a bit of a challenge for maps, because maps will introduce a little bit of that where all of a sudden you really want to be on a puppet floor, but you also don't have any sort of tools at your disposal to slow yourself down at a puppet floor. And even if you could, that would sort of sabotage the main objective of climb as high as you possibly can. So maps are in a bit of a weird spot for Valor Rift, something we're kind of looking for feedback on and we'll be experimenting with. Sejun says, well, the points have become truly useless. Yeah, I kind of missed that as well. I did enjoy how the points in the Halloween event had kind of a special niche to it, made it kind of interesting to hold on to some cheese, but we're trying out something a little bit different to kind of have events be a little more low-key and continue to free up more time for us to work on new areas. Anthony says, why change something that wasn't broken? This sounds so boring. Well, we definitely looking for feedback. I like that when it comes out and see what hunters think. Kind of the main thing we're looking to do is just kind of tone down some of the area-specific loot in some of the events. It kind of got to the point where most of the game was progressed through events, which wasn't really the intention. So I think that's a good fit for the Great Winter Hunt, but when every single event kind of facilitates that same purpose, where it's kind of, a little bit like 20 to 50% faster resource gains during events, then it kind of becomes about, well, do all the events, and then all of a sudden all the other content in the game is significantly less interesting as it's been shortened. Brian asks or suggests a Valor Rift scavenger map instead. That might be interesting. I don't know if there's quite enough unique loot drops to make that particularly interesting, but that might be worth something worth experimenting with. Swift says the gold is absurdly low even for early game standards. Most of the gold is in the floor caches, so similar to Valor Rift, when you don't have your batteries repaired and fully charged up yet, the area is kind of not lackluster, but the rewards are significantly lower. But then once you have all your batteries repaired and you're really rolling in the energy and you can take on some of the more powerful mice, then the rewards start flowing in a lot quicker. So it's a matter of leveling up your speed, your sync, and your siphon up to their max levels, and that's where kind of the area starts to really give out its high-level rewards. Russell asks, is candy corn cheese safe for human consumption? I would assume so. The Eclipse is underwhelming. Says Eugene, it's just a little bit different from other areas where it does kind of start off a little bit slow. So again, to make a comparison to the Valor Rift, and where on day 3 of the area, you're not just bagging dojo sensei after dojo sensei after dojo sensei. It took a little bit of time to build up your batteries and get to the point where now your resources are flowing well and you can continually capture those rewarding mice. Same thing in Valor Rift. As you level up your abilities, those first 8 floors, you will fly through them and very quickly be encountering eclipses on a rather frequent basis. So when you get to that point, that's why they're worth a little or fewer points in gold than some other comparable mice, and that you'll be able to encounter them more frequently than other mice. Is it possible to see a player's location on their profile page? Not at this time. You'd have to go to the scoreboard to see what their highest score is, but you can't see their current location anywhere unless you happen to be friends with them and you are nearby as well in the HUD there. Their face will appear, assuming you don't have too many other friends that are near you. There's a limit on it so that it's not, if you literally had all 500 of your friends all in the Valor Rift, all within a few steps of one another, that'd be a lot of faces on the HUD at once, so that's when you'll see them. Stejan says some people have expressed interest in a more elaborate leaderboard compared to a couple people around us in the stairs. Yeah, it definitely is interesting. So that really made things come to life when Andrew added everyone's faces, so you could see where everyone was at. It just kind of made it that much more entertaining and neat to follow, especially right at the beginning where everyone's sort of in this tight-knit pack. Now as you level up, you'll start spreading out more and more and more, and when you're up on floor 60, 70 and above, you might not have a whole lot of company with you. So that'll kind of thin out over time. So it's kind of interesting when we'll see where that ends up in the end game, but might be something worth playing around with. Dean says, in Feroma you can streak Sensei and Mojo. Well, you can and you can't, right? Because you need to collect the cheese required. So if you had infinite cheese, by all means every single encounter is against that mouse, but you have to put in some time to get the cheese. And then when you have that cheese, then you get to encounter that mouse over and over and over again. But you have to remember you spent time collecting the cheese to begin with. Whereas this area is just mechanically different, where you don't have to spend time really collecting a specific high-level cheese for the mouse. It's just sort of time-gated in how fast you can go up the floors. So there's still that sort of put in some time and then cash out on sort of the boss mouse, if you will. But it's arranged a little bit differently where it's more spread out, where it's not at kind of your leisure of, well, how big of a stash of cheese do you want to build up before you get to go and cash it all out at once. But that's certainly fun as well. I like areas like that, but something a little bit different, so every area appeals to different people who like different stuff. Max says, has Feroma Rift been replaced by Valor Rift as a stockpile? No, I think they would both work in tandem with one another. Brian says about the Valor Rift scavenger map, rather than one of each loot, make it say we need 100 sigils, 100 secrets, 10 fragments. Unfortunately, right now the scavenger maps don't have that sort of ability to track quantities, so that won't be possible right off the bat. Total Eclipse is overpowering compared to the Sensei moderate battery level 10. Yeah, just again, in the grand scheme of things, the amount of time that it takes to farm the cheese versus the amount of time then you get to cash out using that cheese, it all kind of, that's all relative to one another. So obviously, after you do a tower run at all your max upgrade levels, and when you kind of look at the points and gold you amassed over the course of hundreds of hunts, it should work out to be a little bit better than if you started at scratch at Feroma Rift with full batteries, but no cheese. So, but by all means, if you're sitting on 500 pieces of cheese, it's not really apples to apples comparison, because you got to take into account the amount of time it took you to accumulate those 500 pieces of cheese. KDM says normal eclipse gives more gold than total eclipse. Indeed, it's a little bit of a thematic problem, but just the way the area works, right? In that, again, it takes an incredibly long time to make a single piece of tier 8 cheese in the original King's Gauntlet, whereas once you're max level, you're encountering the eclipse much more frequently than, or much faster pace than it takes to make a piece of tier 8 cheese. So with that in mind, if the eclipse was worth that much gold, it'd be too much gold. Darn Wrong says, the new location made me come back to MH. Good job on the design, devs. Thank you. Glad to have you back. Station says, laughs in Feroma cycle. Eugene says, yeah, 100k gold is little. 5 Masters of the Cheese is equal to 1 Eclipse. A lot of the gold as well is in the floor caches. So that's kind of, even on previous Feedback Fridays, we're going over kind of how, just with the design of the area, the mice are going to be inherently worth less gold because there's the way you earn gold in the area isn't from isn't 100% from the mice itself. You also get them by completing the floor caches. And that starts to go up at an exponential rate. So at the low floors, you don't get too much gold. But as you start to go up, let me see if I can find where that is. Oh, the spreadsheet's too big. Points in gold? No. Cash rewards and upgrades. Here we go. So this will be Giorgio's favorite. I'm going to put up a graph, but one of the axes are missing. Giorgio's always annoyed when I do that. Where'd the chat go? All right, I'm losing things. Where's this graph here? It's a big graph. Smaller. So the gold earned per cash, per floor cash that you claim here, it's an exponential curve. So as you get up higher and higher in the tower, you get more and more and more and more gold per step that you took. So with that in mind, kind of again, it's kind of early days. I think somebody just captured their second eclipse in a single run. I think maybe floor 18 or so is the high score. But obviously you're meant to get a lot higher in the tower than floor 18, and the gold gets more and more lucrative as you climb up. Jerry says the crumbled stairs are kind of off, shows hunters behind looking like they're floating there. Yeah, I think Andrew wants to tweak that a little bit so that there's at least a very crumbly looking step if you happen to have a friend there. But my take on that was they're technically in a little bit of an alternate timeline. When you enter the tower, you're getting in sync with the tower's timeline. And so I see every hunter as being in a slightly different timeline where the stairs exist for them, but they don't exist for you because they have a different number of hunts remaining on their chronographer. Happy Cat says the Android app broken after the recent update. Get in touch with a bug report. You can specify exactly kind of the challenges or the issue you're having. We are looking into an issue on Android 9 where the shops occasionally crash the app. We're having a hard time reproducing that though, so it's been a little bit slow. And on iOS 13 as well, we're still looking into an issue where some Facebook features are not working as intended. Primarily the Facebook login button will not work in iOS 13. Definitely banged my head against my computer screen for a while a couple days ago trying to figure that out. Gonna come back with fresh eyes, see if I can figure that out. Zenith says, in love with the area, like the passive, or it's a nice break from the active areas recently. Indeed, yeah, what we're going for is a very, very passive area. There's not too many things to do. You can just kind of make some choices when you enter the tower and then see how high you can climb. Natora asks, do the floors get longer each time you cycle through, or is there a maximum length? So no, there is no maximum length. Every time the floor patterns repeat, they add 10 steps per floor. So they start off with 20 steps per floor, and then after you get past floor 8, they will then start being 30 steps per floor, then past floor 16, they will begin to be 40 steps per floor, and that will repeat indefinitely. As if asks, do we have to spend 250k gold on an opening ability every time we start a run, or is it one-time payment? So those augmentations that we call them, when you go to enter the tower, there are a list of 6 abilities that you can activate for that tower run only. So they're different from your speed, your sync, and your siphon. Those are permanent abilities that you just unlock and you have them forever. The augmentations that you choose when you enter the tower, and they will be active only for that run. So you can choose when you want to use them. It's up to everybody to decide kind of their overall strategy of when they want to use them, when they don't. I'd certainly say you don't want to use them 100% of the time. It comes down to your resource management of when you think is a good time to use them and when you should hold off and do a different kind of run to collect some materials for your next run. Ben says the catch rate gets so low at floor 19. Well, that'll kind of, you can sort of overcome the ability, or you can upgrade your ability to climb faster with your ability. So catch rate starts to become a little less important as you upgrade your speed and your siphon and your sync. That said, catch rate will always play a bit of a role because obviously you don't move forward unless you catch a mouse. But every catch becomes more valuable, where the failure to catch don't become any more punishing, if that makes sense. So every time you catch a mouse, your speed will let you move further, but when you fail to catch, you stay in place. So as you level up, you can kind of see this, you're starting to outplay the tower, right? Like you get more powerful where the mice stay the same power, if that makes sense. Not in terms of catch rate, but in terms of how high you can climb. Yeah, your catch rate is very important when you're first starting out because either you move forward 1 step or you don't. All of a sudden, that's a very dramatic change. But when you're maxed out your speed, when you catch a mouse, you get to move forward 10, whereas when you fail to catch, you move forward 0. And that ratio is obviously much more in your favor, so you can still climb high even though you miss some mice every now and then. Epson asks, is the Lumi Lancer one of those rare mice that needs magical string cheese? I believe, let me just double check. top of my head. The Lumi Lancer is one of the generic mice, pretty hard to catch. I think that'll appear from floor 1. Lumi Lancer, yes. If you're looking to unlock the silhouette, it is a little more attracted to magical string cheese than it would be gauntlet string cheese. That said, it is rather difficult to catch as well, so it will kind of impede your progress going up the tower if you're not using gauntlet string. The Lumi Lancer shows up a little bit more to slow you down. But if you're looking to unlock the silhouette, maybe right towards the end of a run, or if you even want to do a quick run, pop in with magical string or breeze string, see if you can capture the Lumi Lancer to say you did it, and then you could retreat and kind of restart a run where your goal is to climb as high as you can. Notora says, I remember this was supposed to be a small area with fewer rewards. Indeed, and it kind of came down when we were brainstorming. This was sort of the idea that came out of it, and being a first Archduke area, we were looking for something that had some impactful rewards without being entirely game-changing as well. But certainly the nature of anything that is sort of infinite and how far you can progress, that proved to be a big challenge in terms of playtesting and balance. It was time-consuming. Arctic says, would be nice to have the option to turn friends off on the HUD. Yeah, that crossed our mind as well. We're going to see how many hunters requested that before we try to engineer that. Stejan says, before I forget, big shout out to the art team for the entirety of the year. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, absolutely. There are some of the best looking mice in the game. There's some I really like here. The HUD turned out quite amazing as well. The overall aesthetic. I think a lot of it went to the time they put to do some concept art on the area as well, kind of before we even started assets. They did a lot of time to do conceptualization, and I think that really helped form a kind of cohesive art style between the entire art team, and it turned out really well. Max says, Terrified Adventure, the best mouse. Yeah, that mouse is pretty cool. It's a cute one. Sally says, so you don't have to select the augmentations every time. If you want to use them, you need to turn them on. Strategically, it's kind of up to each hunter to decide how often you want to use those augmentations, but they only last for the run of the tower. So if that's what you mean, once you, like for instance, the Sigil Hunter ability that gives you 50% more sigils from your floor cache, you have to activate that before you enter the tower, and it will only last for that run. So as soon as you exit the tower, it'll deactivate, and you have to turn it on again should you choose to do so. Now, some people might decide, you know what, 250k gold, that's not worth an extra 10 sigils to me, because I'm not going to climb very high this time. And so they may choose not to use it. So the intention is you don't have to use it every single run. You have to decide how much are the extra sigils worth to you. Is it worth 250k gold? Then activate it. If not, then don't activate it. There, Grub, was the Terrified Adventure attraction rate nerfed? No, there's been no changes to its attraction rate whatsoever. The only change, like I said, we're doing our best to keep tabs of any and all changes that we make in the patch notes. So if you haven't checked that out before, head to the news section of the game, and there's a patch notes section. Most recent being October 9, and we outlined the only changes we did on October 9 were those 4 bullet points you see there. We reduced the Tower Sigil cache rewards on floors 2, 3, 4, 5, and 16. We increased them on 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And we reduced the cost of Speed Level 2 and Sync Level 2 by 10 sigils each. But those are the only changes that we made. Basically, we just took some of the sigils from the lower floors and bumped them up. So you kind of get more or less the same sigils in the same amount of time, but you don't have to retreat to get those sigils in that amount of time. You can just push higher in the tower, which just thematically feels better than running away like a Terrified Adventure, retreating from the tower to collect rewards. It feels a little bit better to actually keep progressing forward and make progress up the tower. Darn Wrong says, but Ultimate Umbra mice have mice that pushes you back. If catch rate is low, that'll be detrimental to the overclimb. Certainly, there's an interesting thing that came up during playtesting during that, in that even being pushed back isn't too damaging at the lower floors, because you can't be pushed back, and I guess nobody's maybe discovered this yet, you can't be pushed back past your current floor. So if you're on floor 2, and you're on the first step of floor 2, and you fail to catch a mouse, you will stay in place. You can't get pushed back to floor 1. And so on the lower floors, where the floors are short, you get kind of a checkpoint quite frequently. But then as you get up higher and higher in the tower, the checkpoints get further and further apart. And so if you get unlucky and you miss several mice in a row, it can really push you back further than it would on lower floors. But that just kind of comes into play of the overall how high you can reach during Ultimate Umbra. Jamie says, besides being available at the marketplace and charm shop, will Super Rift Power Charm be craftable? You can purchase Super Rift Power Charms from the charm shop in Valor Rift, but no plans to make them craftable. Epson says, yes, I was trying to fill my Looming Lancer Shadow. Guess that means my friend was super lucky bronze already with Gauntlet String. Well, it's not abysmal. It's about a 1 in 50 chance, so certainly this area is one that is meant to put upwards of 10,000 hunts into, so that will equate to many, many Looming Lancers caught. I shouldn't need a calculator to do this, but even at a 1 in 50, that'll be 200 catches by the time you put in 10,000 hunts. So that's a King's Crown. KDM asks, how does Ultimate Umbra work? Well, you need 50 fragments of the Eclipse, and you need to have reached floor 25, if I recall correctly, is the requirement. And then when you enter the tower and the list of augmentations come up, if you've reached 24, that will unlock the ability to use Ultimate Umbra. You click it to highlight it, and then when you enter the tower, you will spend 50 fragments of the Eclipse. The HUD kind of changes color palette a little bit to have a hue of red to it to remind you that you're in Ultimate Umbra. As well as on the HUD, you can see little icons showing what augmentations are active. There'll be one for Ultimate Umbra. Failing to capture a mouse will push you back a bit. It'll add the Bulwark of Ascent mouse, which failing to catch that mouse will push you back quite a bit. Again, though, you can't get pushed back off your current floor. And on every 8th floor, instead of the shade of the Eclipse, you'll encounter the total Eclipse. And instead of dropping fragments, it drops cores. And the cores are what you use to get the trap, the base, and the codex pages, as well as some upgrades. That's a mouthful. Swift says, when does the Bulwark of Ascent come in? Just highlighted that. It'll be added to the encounter pool during Ultimate Umbra. And its encounter rate, I think, stays more or less the same. I think it increases ever so slightly on the first few floors, but it quickly plateaus. And that was kind of interesting during playtesting. Originally, we had, okay, the higher you go, the more and more the Bulwark of Ascent shows up. But we actually did away with that in playtesting when we noticed that pattern of the floors, because they get longer, that spaces out those checkpoints more, and that just inherently makes it harder as you climb, so we didn't need the additional difficulty increase of the Bulwark of Ascent encounter rate increasing. We were able to keep it the same pretty well very early on in the tower. Happy Cat asks, after completing the area full upgrades, will there be uses for sigils and secrets? Sigils and secrets will always have a use in that you need them to power your augmentations. So they'll always have a permanent use even when you reach maximum level. There's always something to sink them into. Even the fragments as well, you use that to use your Ultimate Umbra. That's the cores. Once you have all the codex pages, the traps, the bases, the cores don't have a compelling use right now. That'll be something we'll kind of look for suggestions on. It'll be probably at least a month down the road, at least before anyone has cores that they're looking to throw out. But so we have lots of time to get suggestions there. There's some suggestions floating around for making kind of what we call pokeable items, similar to the unstable curds, unstable gourds, unstable crystals, that sort of thing. And you could poke it to get a random assortment of sigils, secrets, maybe lots of Rift Power Charms too, things that help your catch rate in the tower and help you put up a better high score for your prestige base. Sejun says, why has no one asked the question, what is the secret behind the completed codex? It's been ages since it's been whole. I'll kind of let hunters think that over. We welcome your feedback, suggestions, and impressions on that as well. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit of time, I think, before anyone completes the codex. So we kind of wanted to see how hunters tackle the area before we put too much of a finalized thought into that. Anthony asks, wish we got more craftable charms. It's been a while. Keep that feedback coming. There's kind of two camps in both, I think, the players as well as the development team as well. Some people enjoy crafting and think it's really neat. Other people hate it and think it's the worst thing in the game. So we try to find a middle ground. Right now, the rule of thumb we use is we make something purchasable in a shop if it is something that you only need for that area. If it's something that you can use in many areas, then we make it craftable. Now, that's, again, rule of thumb. It's not sort of a law that we live by. There's some other factors as well. If it's a item which you need to spend things that you earn in a specific area. Sometimes it gets put in that shop. So things like the Lucky Rift Power Charms, because you buy them with Bristlewood's Rift supplies. They are sold at the Bristlewood's Rift. There's also some other caveats where, unfortunately, the game platform only allows you to craft with a very specific type of item. So if we don't make it that type of item from day one, then you cannot craft with that item, which is unfortunate. In hindsight, it would have been nice if any item in the game could be marked as able to be used for crafting. I have lost my place in the chat while I ramble away. Aiden says, save for the single or recent changes, I assume that the sigils and secrets also follow a pattern or graph. Is it possible to show this pattern? I suppose so. I'm always okay showing a pattern when I leave out an axis. It's less nerve-wracking. Where they cache rewards and upgrades. Actually, on Discord, I showed a few. I think I was showing a few of these graphs with without their axis attached. Okay, I'll take a screenshot of that. Maybe not of that, because that one's a little confusing. And okay, I already got that one. Let me find the chat, find the stream. So where are we at here? Yeah, I've just been chilling out next to this graph, eh? See you later, graph. Time for a new graph. I'll start with, well, actually, I'll start with this one here. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I'm adding a Twitter feed instead of a file. I always do that. Because it's media file or social media, and they're right next to each other, and apparently I have trouble reading things. Oh, that graph is big as well. All right, another graph without axes. So you can see a pattern, but not the specific values. But I think it's not too hard to guess. One of those is sigils, and one of those is secrets. And the axis would be, the y-axis is the number of sigils or secrets, and the x-axis being the floor that you have reached. I think hunters are already picked up on a very predictable pattern in terms of how many tower secrets are in a cache based on what floor you reach. But the sigils follow a logistic curve, so they're a little less predictable without knowing the exact coefficients in there. And I've lost my place again. Destin says, or asks, will there be new skins released in Valor Rift shop? None planned at the moment. We have the two, the lunar and the solar theme for the Celestial Dissonance trap. Skavos asks, there's been some disagreement in my hunting team. Does this prestige base increase based on normal gauntlet floors or only Umbra floors? Only Umbra. So that whatever your high score is in Ultimate Umbra mode, that will determine the stat bonus that the prestige base gets. So with that in mind, when it comes to allocating and reserving resources, if you have a nice little stash of extremely high power Rift Charms, you might want to save them for Ultimate Umbra. You may even want to put a little stash aside for when you're max level and you're taking on Ultimate Umbra to really get good bang for your buck there and put up as high of a floor number as you can. Anthony says, crafting seems to be left out lately except for the traps. I'll pass along the feedback because I like crafting, but other people don't. So I think I'm in the minority every time I advocate for more crafting recipes. But keep the feedback coming. I need backup. I'll get outvoted every time we decide between crafting and the shop. Natora says, does the prestige base upgrade retroactively? Yes. So if you, let's say you just don't bother buying it ever, you've never even taken a single hunt with it armed, and the highest floor you've reached in Ultimate Umbra is floor 80, then it will have the floor 80 bonus applied to it as soon as you buy it. You don't need to use the prestige base during Ultimate Umbra to like charge it up or add the stats. It looks at what's the highest floor you've reached in Ultimate Umbra. Cool, these are the stats the base has. You can use any kind of loadout, any sort of equipment or kit that you want to put up those high scores. Happy Cat asks, can we stack augmentations? Absolutely, and it is incredibly fun when you can turn on all 6 at once. It's quite the endeavor, although that's not always the best strategic use of your resources, but during playtesting I did activate all 6 at once. Stejan says, how far can you get bopped back? Do you lose the entire floor worth of progress? No, I don't think any mouse can push you back an entire floor. No, nothing pushes you back 20. Ben asks, does the fragments and core continue to go up by 1 for every shade total eclipse you catch in a run? No, they go up a little quicker than that. So it's more of an exponential increase. So 50 fragments seems like a lot right now, but as you get to max level, all of a sudden 50 is going to become a walk in the park to collect, but that may take a lot of upgrading before you get there. And that cues what is perhaps the most interesting graph I've ever come across while balancing an area, and that is the number of cores per hunt that you earn based on the floor you reach. And I think this is based off max upgrade, so you're at level 10 speed now. But it was just interesting because obviously every time you capture the eclipse, it drops the core or the fragment, which means now if you don't make it to the next floor, you don't get more cores or fragments, and so your cores and fragments per hunt will technically drop, and so it follows like this weird jagged pattern, but it just goes, the trend line obviously it goes up and to the right. Brian says, what kind of words were we in the Valor Rift map? Chests, putting sigils in secret allows players to leech chests before stepping in. Yeah, we would not put sigils or secrets in there. Obviously still a work in progress, but I think it'd be primarily elixirs, champions fire, probably a healthy stash of various types of rift charms as well to help improve your catch rate, help you push higher in the tower. But similar to Fort Rocks, you have to get Bloodstone and Howlite yourself. Sigils, secrets, fragments, and cores are all in the same park as well. There's things that you have to put in the time to earn yourself. And so it's typically not something we'd add for tournament rewards or map rewards or any sort of cooperative or competitive reward system. Valor Rift Lightning map, says Ben. That would be a neat use for the cores. It seemed like we had pretty positive feedback of using that as a use for the teeth. That said, feels pretty unique to Full Mina, so I don't know if I want to take any wind out of those sails. It's kind of a neat little use for Mosu Pichu, kind of a permanent reward that you can keep farming from that area, so I don't think I'd want to eclipse it with this area, forgive the pun. Darn Wrong says 5,000 cores for ultimate charms. That would be quite the hefty price tag. It would take you a while to get 5,000 cores. What about Eclipse maps, Lightning, but worse? Yeah, it's worth exploring. Like I said, though, I kind of am open to feedback, but I kind of like how that's very unique to Mosu Pichu, and it's a very compelling reason to go back there and collect some more teeth. It makes the teeth maintain kind of their value, makes it always an exciting area to go and see if you're going to loot any teeth, or get a trickle of dragon scales and work up to a tooth. Beth says, we already need 553 cores for all the permanent content upgrades, base, trap, codex pages. Yeah, that will take a little bit of time to earn everything, but hopefully things start rolling out in stages. And like I said, as you upgrade, your ability to earn those cores gets better and better. You can get higher and higher sort of cores per hunt, if that's the metric you want to measure by. Dark says, why is there a one-step distance to shade number 2 from 350 to 351? Every 8th floor is a single step. So when you reach the Eclipse room, your progress is halted until you capture the Eclipse, and then you continue upwards. But every 8th floor is just a single step. Beth says, that's a lot of cores. Right now it seems like a lot of cores, but as you upgrade, it will become easier to collect those cores. Darn Wrong says, by the way, the general store seems to indicate there's no limit to the codex pages. There is no limit 1. I believe they should be limited, but if not, that is not good. Let's check that out. These are stat. Nope, those aren't those items. They're stat items. So, whoa, my monitor turned off. What am I doing? Come back to me. Thank you. They all limited to 1. So the Codex of Valor is limited as 1, although there wouldn't be a way to get a second one because you can only complete an adventure once. And all the pages also have limit 1 as well. Technically, I guess even if you could buy 2, if I'm somewhat familiar with how that code was put together, it just checks, do you have this item, give you this bonus, so it doesn't say for every item that you have, keep giving you the bonus, so I think it'd work out, but obviously it'd be a big waste of cores if you could buy more than 1. You can afford 0, you own 0. Yeah, I guess, that's interesting. You'd have to look at it in Larry's Loot Lexicon to see that it has a limit of 1. The shop doesn't indicate it has a limit until you own the limit, which is a little bit weird. Jamie asks, as we proceed to higher floors in Valor Rift, which charm will work best in the long run? Rift Ultimate Power Charm or Ultimate Luck Charm? Any hints? Typically, power it would kind of reign supreme, I think, in this area. Especially a lot of the mice have pretty high power values, and they also have a very extreme weakness to rift power as well, which typically synergizes well with a power bonus over a luck bonus. Kind of rule of thumb when you're looking at mice on the adversaries page. Ooh, I can sound my horn. One hunt left. Nope, I can't. Someone took me on a hunt. Eileen, you took me on a hunt. I have one hunt left in the tower. If I catch, I'm going to make it to floor 14. Sweet. As I was saying, as you look at mice on the adversaries page, so you click one, you bring up its details, and there are those categories: very effective, effective, and less effective. Mice which have a power type in the very effective category typically are weakest to power, so your power will help catch you more than luck. And things in the effective range will typically luck's the way to go. Luck also helps you collect more loot drops, so maximizing your luck while you're outside the tower might be beneficial, get a few more elixirs going per hunt. Similarly, when you're on lower floors of the tower, a luck bonus might be a small little boost to consider to try to get a few more sigils and secrets as you're going up before the catch rate starts to go down. You'll notice in the Valor Rift there are 2 unique mice per floor. For example, let me grab one. Let me see, the Dust Floor, because I can remember the name of floor 7. There's the Withered Remains, and there's the Arch Champion Necromancer, so there are several mice with the word champion in their name. Those ones become available past floor 8, and the higher you climb, or every time the floor themes repeat, the encounter rate of those champions will keep going up, and they are much more difficult to capture, but they drop tower secrets as well. So you can kind of keep that in mind as you go up. Those champions will start to appear more and more often to try to halt your ascent in the tower, but they do have worthwhile loot drops should you be able to capture them. Swift says, just wondering why the change to the elixir system compared to the old potion system. And again, it was a bit of a split camp between some people liking potions, some people not, as well as a bit of a technical limitation with potions where one potion cannot produce multiple of an outcome. You always need to pour it on a certain number of pieces of cheese to create that number of pieces of cheese. Where for the elixirs, we wanted more the effect that Magic Essence has of, hey, you only have one elixir, but now you've created an extra piece of cheese from the single elixir. So there's a little bit of both, a technical limitation of potions and just kind of a thematic of potions not being the most popular or straightforward way of obtaining resources. Jamie says, are we... oh wait, no, I already read that one. Where am I at? Whoa, the chat just scrolled. I must have been scrolled way, way up. I think I am reading questions from quite some time ago. Where am I? Nathan says, do you think we'll ever have things where loot from the previous areas is used in future areas? We try that as best now we can, but sometimes it's just a difficult, or very temperamental kind of economy within each area. But yeah, I like wherever we can, that's neat to incorporate. Arctic says, did you guys get the typo in the adventure reach floor 25? I don't think so. Let me see. Floor. To get to the floor. This is my last hunt in the tower. I failed the catch. Didn't get to floor 14. Got to floor 13. New highest floor reached. All right. Ooh, I can upgrade my speed, my sync, or my siphon speed. Gotta go fast. Speed is king. And I'll use Sigil Hunter. Sure. All right, right back in we go. Floor 25, though. I got distracted. I got distracted by my Hunter Sword. Let me see. Floor. There it is. Reach floor 25. I'll fix that right now. I think I know how to do that. Catch, Rift, Eclipse, Adv. Search for floor. Hey, floor, where are you? Reach floor 25. There we go. Delete. Thank you. I will delete that extra floor. I'll see that. I'll commit that. I might not go live today unless there's something a little bit more pressing, but that'll probably come out next time we update the game. Dirk Memora says, just asking again, is there any reason for the extra one step from 350 to 351 before shade number 2? I don't think I follow what you mean if I didn't, if it wasn't that there's only one step per floor. Peter says, love crafting more, love crafting, vote crafting. Let us know, please inundate us with love crafting messages so I can have backup. Crafting is more immersive in my opinion, says Spagar. Sean says feels more satisfying to craft an endgame trap. Thank you. Feels more satisfying to me. It might be that too, though. You have to kind of consider your audience as well. Obviously, tuning into Feedback Friday, being high level in the Valor Rift, you have a firm grasp on all the systems in the game. And so I think some people advocate that crafting is a little more involved or harder to wrap your head around than seeing this thing is in the shop. Because you have to kind of dig for the information of what do I need to make this, rather than the shopkeeper saying, well, just bring me this stuff and I'll sell you the trap. I love this graph, says Beth. Thank you. I like the graph as well. Can you update the drawing of the map, please, Jacob? I believe he is working on some updates to the map. Jeffrey says, how do we give G-string baskets to friends, not in send supplies? Oh dear, that should be. Let's check that out. Ooh, items, convertibles. That was the best name we could come up with 10 years ago. Let's see, Valor Rift gift basket, I think it's called. The Valor Rift gift basket is, it should show up. Giveable, tradable. I mean, look again. Make sure you own one. I don't think it shows up unless you own one. Not sure prices are more insane. Well, they're kind of in line with the amount of time it would take to acquire that much not sure, with the amount of time it would take to craft eye essences in the Living Garden, but they don't take into effect any sort of event bonuses that you might have or anything like that. So it's sort of more, if you started from scratch as a brand new Baron Hunter, you go into the Living Garden and say, I'm going to make an ultimate charm. It'll take you about the same amount of time as it would to take somebody starting from scratch to collect that much notchore. Actually, not quite from scratch, starting with a level 10 queso pump. Demonialized says, we've got here, why is the gold so low in the Valor Rift? Because there is so much gold in the caches. So the gold per hunt is a little better, but you don't get as much from the mice because you get it in the caches, which increases exponentially. And assuming this is correct, for example, if somehow you made it to floor 200, whoa, I need 0. I need number formatting in this. I need commas to see how big this number is. 1,000 separators. If somehow you made it to floor 200, you would get to claim 84.1 million gold. But I have never reached floor 200 in my playtesting. Floor 100. Where's floor 100? That is the cap, by the way. If somehow you get to floor 200, you will stop getting... floor 201 will have the exact same reward as floor 200, because we're making the assumption no one's going to get there. 100 is... Floor 100, you will claim 20,077,149 gold on floor 100. So a lot of the gold, as you upgrade your abilities and you get higher and higher in the tower, you'll be able to claim larger and larger caches of gold. Will the Royal Loot Crates get a update? No immediate plans. Kind of every once in a while we do a pass on that. Kind of similar to how we look at the King's Arms as well. We did add medium spice leaves to the King's Arms though. Jason says, I take the time to say you guys, I like that you guys made the trade cheesable in the store. What is wrong with me? The cheese tradable. Whew. Can't say it in the shop yet. Rule of thumb: anything that is sold for cash in the game, you can buy with gold via the marketplace, just to make everything as accessible as we can. Brian says, now that we have an Archduke area, will there be an Elite Relic Hunter scavenger map next season? I don't think there's plans to add the Elite until maybe one more Archduke, just to make sure there are enough Archduke-specific mice for the Elite tier. Sally says, I love crafting too, but not as complex as the rib was. Yeah, that definitely was kind of a one-off thing, a sort of epic trap to go through, a unique process to follow. Swift says, why did the crafting recipes shrink? I think Giorgio kind of reorganized things a little bit to make them a little more succinct, remove some of the categories that just had a single item into it, try to make things a little easier to find by category. That said, search is always king to me. I always just search what I want to find. Will Lightning Map have mice from Valor Rift? We would do that as part of the map update. And I don't believe so, because Lightning Maps have a Grand Duke requirement, so they won't require any mice from Archduke areas going forward. So no, I don't think they would get added there. Diamond says, we need better options on purchasing rare map dust. Well, the Relic Hunter season should probably put a little infusion of rare map dust into the economy, but it's as always, whatever the market will bear. So, I mean, whatever people feel is a worthwhile price for the extra rewards a rare chest has that offers, that's kind of what they'll be willing to pay for it. If it gets to the point where you say, you know what, I'd rather have that gold than those items in the rare chest, then keep your gold. It's just the choice to make, whatever you think those rewards are worth in terms of gold. It says that Fulmina doesn't drop Rift items because she's not from the Rift. But if that's the case, why do Lightning maps have Rift mice in them? Well, they're just different, right? It's not Fulmina itself. So although she hasn't visited the Rift, the challenge that put forth on hunters could take you across the Rift plane. At least with crafting game remembers the recipe after the first craft had to remember a pain all. If I had to remember from memory all the time, that would be a pain. Yep. How many steps is floor 100? Well, actually, I don't have a quick way to look that up. It's not the most easy little algorithm to calculate distance traveled by floor number. Chong says, Dave, are you using Ultimate Charm in this test run? I mean, obviously, for fun or just like a future-proof it, I did do a test run with unlimited Ultimate Charms. Obviously, that would be extremely unreasonable because when you reach max level, it is hundreds of hunts in the tower. But we did just a kind of sanity check to see what would happen. We also did another sanity check with setting the Terrified Adventure Mouse to 100% encounter rate. So if somehow you encountered that mouse every single time, how high in the tower would you climb? And it was absurdly high, but the odds of that happening are so low that they would be impossible. It's safe to say it's impossible. I mean, the Terrified Encounter, or the Terrified Adventure Mouse has somewhere around a 15% encounter rate, depending on where you are in the tower. So the odds of rolling a 15% 1,000 times in a row is a lot. There's a lot of zeros in front of that one after the decimal place kind of thing. Jason says, wasn't this area supposed to be Grand Duke? No, I think it was always planned to be Archduke. Swift says, like, now I have 80 plus different items in the cheese crafting recipe. It's kind of overwhelming, I feel. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of fair enough when categorizing them by cheese. That's we kind of, the recipe book, it only scales to a certain point, and so it's kind of nice now in most of the new HUDs, if there is crafting in the area, it incorporates that recipe directly in the HUD, so that when you're in the area where you're most likely to be using that recipe, it's at your fingertips. It also kind of led to, like I was describing, that rule of thumb we use of putting things in the shop. If it's an item that you need that's very specific to that item, we tend to put it in the shop, and so it's kind of, it's there on its own. It's not in and amongst all the other cheese you can craft. Red Bowser asks about Rift Stalker maps. Will Valor Rift mice be added? You can let us know what you think of that. A little hesitant to do it because it would raise the requirement from Grand Duke to Archduke. But we'll kind of figure that out. Jamie says, are the scoreboards giving problems? Any update when it'll be back to normal? The scoreboards, so we're pretty well through this. We replaced our scoreboard infrastructure, actually. We put up a brand new server, migrated the data with no problem. That was on Tuesday. The brief amount of downtime was actually to move the backup over and restore the scoreboards. I believe now these scoreboards that are active are all the ones we were able to recover. In the background, we are tracking. Technically, all the other scoreboards have been restarted and they're tracking in the background. There's just no way to view the scoreboards. So we're still kind of just going through feedback, figuring out what we want to do, but we'll post an update when we come to a decision. The Berserker's mouse name is a bit too close to the Berserker mouse. That is fair enough. I was wondering when that would finally happen. We have so many mice that it gets difficult to find unique names for them. No, that's fair enough. That seems a little silly. Yeah, I don't know if I like that. Why can't I highlight on this page? What do we do? Whoa, it's 12. I gotta go. How did that happen? All right, we gotta wrap things up here. Berserker with a Z. And where's the other Berserker mouse? Yo, Berserker, where are you at? It's a King's Gauntlet mouse, is it not? Maybe that should be the trivia question. Ah, there's the Berserker with an S and the Berserker with a Z, of course. Well, at least one's a Rift version. So it kind of has that going for it a little bit, but that is a little awkward. All right, so we'll wrap things up here. Notor asks, what are the gilded steps? That is one of the mysteries to unlock in the tower. Wait, Dave, so you say there is a chance. I don't know what you were referring to with that. What floor did you get to? Oh, with the Gauntlet String Cheese Mouse, you're saying there is a chance. Yes, there is. I don't know. I'd have to open up a calculator and crunch it, but it would be, yeah, I don't know. It would be 0.15 to the power of 1,000. That's a scientific notation is required. It's such a small number. But technically there is a chance, but in the world of statistics, it's so low you just say that's impossible. The Bazooka Mouse. Withered Renee's mouse thumbnail looks similar to the Specular Butler. I think I can see that too, actually. 15% sounds about what I'm getting. Yeah, it varies a little bit as you go up in the tower and more champion mice get added to the encounter pool. That kind of lowers its encounter rate slightly, but the champions do plateau at some point. So it doesn't get too much lower than 15. Any chance of adding secret floors like Sound City or Bristlewoods Rift? Now, kind of the way it's laid out, it's very difficult to kind of break that pattern of the same 8 floors over and over. The Z represents the Rift. I like that. Floor 100 looks like 6,860 steps. I'll have to take your word for it. I don't have a way to look that up off the top of my head. Oh. Names don't have to be words. That is correct. We've certainly done that. I believe in the heart of mice. Dave, wrap it up. LMAO. All right, we will do the trivia because I think I have a meeting in 12 minutes. So this week's trivia question is, how many fragments of the eclipse does the shade of the eclipse drop when captured on floor 16? There are 2 possible answers to this question. 2 is one of the correct answers. And will anyone get the second correct answer? 3, says Ryan, is correct. The Shade of the Eclipse on floor 16 will drop 2 fragments instead of 1, or 3 with Champion's Fire, because it has +1 drop. It doesn't double drops, but it adds +1. And I'll test this reward link. Cool, 7,000 Temporal Shadow plates. All right, just save everyone the time. Reward link is coming in the chat. If you're watching this recorded, I suppose I should put that up as well. Why do I click social media every time? I just really want to add a Twitter feed to the stream, I guess. Text. That doesn't even have the word media in it. What am I doing? There you go, in case you're watching this recorded, there's a reward link as well. And as you go up in the tower, in the sake of trivia as well, let's see what the next one will drop. There is a pattern to it for sure. Actually, wait, no, I thought this was a different pattern. Oh, wait, no, we didn't end up doing that. Okay, yeah. Originally, each eclipse would drop the sum of all the eclipse below it, but that got a little too crazy at higher floors. So it is going up by 1, yeah. Is that cap? Yeah, the most it could drop is 25 in a single catch. But kind of the neat effect is when you get to floor 24, then you will get 6 fragments of the eclipse because you've captured 3 eclipse, and you'll get 1, you'll get 2, then you'll get 3. So it'll be 6 or 9. Yeah, originally I think it was 1, 2, 3, then 6, because 6 is 3 plus 2 plus 1. Then it would be 10, because that's 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, but that grew way too fast. A little craziness. My horn is ready. First hunt in a new tower run. Look at all the people around me. Started off right with a catch. Cool. Alright, let's close this. What is going on? Where am I? Woo! Fibonacci fragments. Nice. Yes, that is correct. The Fibonacci sequence was originally being used there, but it just grew way too fast. Matthew says 7,000 temporal shadow plates. Enjoy. Enjoy the 7,000 temporal shadow plates. You lucked out on the 7,000 ribs. I'm attempting to find my thanks for watching screen on here. What's going on here? I don't know how to use this software anymore, apparently. All right, cool. Well, on that note, Hunters, I will say goodbye. Thank you for joining me for Feedback Friday for a, as usual, longer than I meant to be Feedback Friday. Thanks for all the feedback, the questions, and your initial impressions on the Valor Rift. And we'll see you next week. No, it won't be Jacob. It's going to be me again. Or will it? We might actually have to cancel Feedback Friday. We are going to be out of office. I'll check a calendar here. Useless without a calendar. Yeah, actually, there will not be a Feedback Friday next week. We will be attending EGLX. It is a conference here in Toronto for video games where we'll be showcasing MouseHunt and a couple other games as well. So I think we will not be available at the regularly scheduled Feedback Friday time. So there'll be no Feedback Friday next week. I'm going to put that in my daily planner to make sure I put up a ticker about that and disable the banners as well. I'm out of breath from speaking for 60 minutes straight. Tickers about no FBF next week. That's going in the daily planner. I will take care of that before I leave today. Thanks. Have a good weekend. Thank you, Diamond. Hope you have a good weekend as well. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, if you were in Canada, happy Thanksgiving back to you as well. Bye, 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 bye. Goodbye to everybody. Live stream the event. I don't think I'd have the bandwidth to do it. Have a great day ahead. Thank you, too, Brian. Thanks for joining me. Bye, everybody.
Traveled to this place from where I'd been. Spent nearly every penny on the fee. I bought you all the things I knew I'd need to draw you in and bring you close to me. I laid it all down at your little feet. Spoke a prayer, a wish, and crossed my heart. You were all I'm out here searching for. And when I catch you, I'll want nothing more. So I will wait for you. I will wait for you. I will wait and check my bait. And I won't leave for more